Disruptive. Today's topic of discussion is revisiting education system for a global change. From empowering women to reducing time to even combating climate change, education is a crucial piece of puzzle to ensure our globe continues to get better every day. The positive effects that stem from educating individuals end up rippling the entire earth in innumerable ways. We have with us a very special guest, Mr. Chukwuka Enujekor, who's be talking about revisiting education system for a global change. But before that, I want to show all our audience some video.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David Sancha, and Nupama and all the organizing committee for this. Thank you very much.
This is an insight.
This is Sunita, why the work you're doing in reading and writing is still so crucial. And this is what we need also in a they can become more autonomous learners. Easier to facilitate the process. But in Latin America, we're still, 45% do not understand what they read, and for heaven's sake, okay? So this is why I think, the work you're doing is fantastic, Sunita.
Or if students have forgotten how to construct a sentence, how can this student make a paragraph, write a paragraph? Therefore, addressing learning loss is very, very important. And at last but not least, we have to stop memorizing, understanding.
Country should be encouraged and supported to set learning targets that and invest corresponding the resources so that indeed children are receive the accelerated support required and are successful in acquiring foundational literacy and numeracy. So we have a political commitment requirement of setting targets foundational literacy and numeracy, all children to be able to read at the age that's appropriate, 5, 10, 12 years old, and resources and accountability system to enable for that to happen.
Hello, world community. It's time for all of us to act. We can all reach up and teach one person how to read. Dr. Sunita Gandhi and disruptive literacy arches in creating literacy across the world.
Guest now, Mr. Chukwuka. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate the opportunity among the global speakers all over the world, including the global director for UNICEF. It's really an honor. Thank you very much. Okay, so can I have the screen, please? Yeah, thank you. So
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sure, thank you. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Okay. So with the current trend in the world, it's necessary that we always advance on our educational system in order for us to have a global change. So that was the essence of this topic, to revisit the educational system for a global change. And when I'm talking on a global change, I'm not just talking on a change on a particular country or a change on a particular continent or a change on a particular region. I'm talking about the change that will affect the global in a positive way. more or less the way the pandemic, the coronavirus affected the world. It's a change, a positive change I'm talking about. That when visiting the educational system, we checking things that needs to be corrected and things that don't need to be corrected, so we could have a global change. In fact, for even the next generations, you know. So that's more of the essence of this topic. So please, can I have the slide to be a bit bolder than this? So please, can I have the slide to be a bit bigger than this? Hello? Hello? Are you still there? Yeah, thank you.
Is it
Thank you.
better now? Is it better? Okay.
Thank you. So please, can you start from the beginning?
Sorry?
From the beginning, from slide one.
From slide one. Okay.
Yeah. You're actually on slide three, so let's take it to like slide one.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay, no problem.
Is it okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Is it okay
Introduction,
now?
yeah. Yeah, it's okay. So, just like I said, that we're visiting the educational system for a global change, which is very essential today in our world. You know, we've actually set up goals according in line with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the UN, the United Nations, and other educational bodies like the UNESCO and others, UNICEF. But there's a big need for us to check this um, educational system globally. Just like I said, like me talking on this doesn't mean I'm referring to a particular country, a particular continent, or a particular region. So just the introduction is just like education is the foundation in which a country is built. You know, in every country there's always an education. Without education, there's nothing there. Just like the popular saying, that education is the bedrock of society. You know, without education, there is not going to be anything like doctors or anything. So education is the foundation in which a country is built. You know, it is through education we help children to reach their full potentials. Okay, let me use myself as an example. I can't be standing here if I haven't passed through the real process of education. Same thing applies to others. We can have the president of a particular country going into the office of the president if he hasn't passed through some experience in education. We can have medical doctors entering into the theaters, entering into ICUs, performing their duties as medical doctors if they haven't passed through the real experience of learning and education. So education helps to bring the full potential of children. It might not necessarily be children, but education has, because we also have the new trend of adult education. So education helps to bring the full potentials of individuals, both children and adults. But how can we build an educational system that develops adults of tomorrow? Just when I mean the adults of tomorrow, the children of today are definitely to be the adults of tomorrow. Just like we have there's this rhymes that parents listen to your children. We are the leaders of tomorrow. So these children are actually going to be the leaders of tomorrow. Now, how can we have an educational system that is going to develop and build change makers, build thinkers, build adults of tomorrow that we have to that we have to help us in the fast changing century. You know, the century is actually moving, and we're currently in the 21st century. But how can we have change makers? How can we have children who will become change makers tomorrow? How can we have children or students who become thinkers tomorrow that will adapt and help us move our changing world of the 21st century? Consider the major changes of the society. You know, the past 30 years, in the last 30 years and now, there's a very big change. There's a very big difference. We've had educational technology changing many of these things. Even apart, there are many disciplines in in education. So when I'm talking of education, I could also think of educational technology, educational management, educational, but there are different trends in this education that has changed in the last 30 years. And there's has actually been affected by today's society. Now, there's this goal reach that by 2030 we we should have different targets. There was a goal set by 2015 in literacy that by in 2015 the rate of literacy should have reduced. Definitely, different agencies tried their various best. Agencies such as UNESCO, UNICEF, and different agencies. Even I'm sure even the Dignity International Efficient Education also did theirs. Even schools did theirs. And now there's another goal setting of 2030, and I hope that we actually reach that goal. Next slide, please. Okay, global change requires everyone to think differently. We can have a global change if everyone is thinking the same way. In the same way, in the sense that we have, let me use, I'm an educational technologist, so let me use my own discipline to give this example. As an educational technologist, we actually need different people to think different ways because we started from traditional method of teaching, and in the traditional method of teaching, it's actually require now we are the traditional method of teaching is actually moving because we have different teachers and educators moving from the traditional method of teaching to the new trends. When I mean new trends, I mean we have artificial intelligence, we have the AR, we have the AI, visual learning, we have different new trends in, we have the robotics in learning, we have different um trends now. Now, because if educators or educational technologies didn't think differently, we won't have these new trends. Now, for us to have a global trend or for us to have a global change, everyone has to think differently. The world will be in a better place if we think differently. Now, from now, we're in 2023. From 2023 to 50 years from now, I believe that the world will be in a there will be a very massive difference because everyone is actually thinking different. But if from now to 2050, in 50 years from now, I mean, and everybody is thinking in the same direction, then there won't be any global change. So, what the essence of that is that for us to have a global change, we have to think differently, and our children needs to be globally competitors to understand the cultures and the comforts of cultural competencies. You know, our children have to have global competitors in the sense that we need to expose these children in this educational system. In the educational system has to change from a method that we should have the inter competition whereby they have the competition only in their classes. We need a global change in which students needs to go out and have different competitions in order to equip them. You know, and I'm glad that the educational system is really moving in that direction. We have students going to other schools to compete. Why don't we have this making it like students going to have global competitions, countries, regions, continents versus continents, and you know, visiting that and adding that to the educational system is actually going to have a positive change to our global world. Now, the world is doubling, and there are ways that people can align to this. Like, there's also what they call the information. Information is one important thing that we need to also take very, very serious in this. So, in the last few years, we've had tremendous change. As students, we have to learn different skills. That's another thing that needs to be added to the educational system. You know, and I think most schools are already adding this, where students need to have differences apart from the learning of the numeracies, the literacies, the science, and other things that the curriculum has added for teaching and learning. We need to also emphasize on skills. The student needs to have the skills that will build them for a better tomorrow. Skills that will build them for new trends. You know, I was so happy when I saw this school in India. Although I saw it through a LinkedIn post, and I saw the new trends they were following. I was seeing how they were implementing STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, into the curriculum, and you know, these are things that we could revisit and add so that we could have a better global change. Next slide, please. Also, the need to revisit the educational system. Why do we need to revisit? That's the question. Now, I've been saying we need to revisit, we need to revisit. No, why do we need to revisit this educational system? Why is it that we can't just leave this educational system to be the same? Or why is it that the educational system of 10 years ago needs to be changed? Why is it the educational system of 20 years we can't still follow it if we know we still want a positive global change? Why? Now, here are reasons why educators, even the government, as stakeholders, agencies, needs to revisit the education system. Globalization has radically transformed the world in every aspect. Yeah, um, in the year 2020, the world experienced a pandemic, and due to the fact that everyone was thinking differently, we were able to overcome. We had that was when webinars took place, and webinars became very strengthened. We had e-medicine, we have e-learning, we had different things. We even had e-commerce became more stronger simply because people were thinking differently. Nobody was thinking at the same line, nobody was thinking at the same space, everybody were thinking different ways. Now this was why we had a global change, and this was why we were able to overcome this. Now, globalization has radically transformed the world in every aspect, but it has specifically transformed the world economy, which has become increasing interconnected and interdependent. But the world economy is increasingly competitive. The globalization, we can have a good globalization if our economy is not actually moving. Globalization affects the economy, and amazing thing is it could affect it positively and it could affect it negatively. But as educators, and as I'm hoping that it affects it in a positive way. So global education interconnects methods of teaching from worldwide systems and encourage international development. I'm an advocate of international development, and I'm someone who loves to see international development. Even in my organization, think that we see that this interdevelopment is moving in different ways. When we see educators moving in this, when we see educational technologies integrating different trends in their classroom teachings, we are so happy that we try push it out also to other international countries so that they could also implement such strategies and trends. Now, there is need for a global education which will strengthen teaching and learning. And there's the educational initiative prioritize global access, in which we every student needs to have a global access to teaching and learning from the primary level to the university level. Even after the university level, to continue, because there is this saying of even after you're out of the university, we still learn. In fact, anytime a man says he is no more learning again, that's when he's dead. So even after the university level, there is still learning. So what I'm always saying is, let's have a global access to education. Let's have a global access that will reach us to have a global learning in the world. Next slide, please. Education serves as a foundation for global stability. We can't have global stability if there is no education. I began this presentation by saying that education is the bedrock of any society. Any society that there is no education, any country that there is no education, any country that is not trying to curb the illiteracy rate, any country that is still there and they are not trying to be out of the E9, then E9, that's the countries with illiteracies. There is no global stability in the development of multicultural awareness in the early age may integrate to ideologies from various societies, and we have to arrive at balance. And regarding the effect of this, it will have mutual goals, preparing young people for a successful future. So, in essence of this, we can have young people for a successful future if we don't have a global education. Now, revisiting the educational system, we need to also integrate the global education. A global education where we need to have collaboration. A global education where we have need to have meetings with different people. When we could have I must say big ups to UNESCO. I must say with the last 2022 program transforming education. These are things that brought different countries to the world, well, how we could access the global education. Now, this is what I'm only just trying to implement. I'm just saying that global education is something that we need for us to have a global change in the world. With globalization, some of the challenges of knowledge learning we provide to this learner will be have the ability to be more familiar with and comfortable with concepts and certain structures. We have different structures in learning, and when we have globalization, students will have to be familiar with different structures, different concepts, different ways in which they learn. So the essence of globalization has helped. The reason why I'm saying globalization is because when we want to visit the educational system, we can't, for a global change, we have to, being that there's a global change there, we need to be globalized. Now, information society and global economy requires holistic understanding and system thinking, including the world system and and the business ecosystem. Globalization uses holistic approach to the problems. There are many problems in the world, and the problems in the world actually requires education to solve these problems. Yeah, we actually need educators and using education to solve this problem. That's why there is an emphasis that we need to build successful children who will become successful adults of tomorrow, who become change makers of tomorrow, to endeavor that our educational system doesn't fail, because there's generations that are coming up. Now we need to pass up an educational system that will be so strengthened, that will be strengthened not just for a country economy but a global economy. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So the need for us to also revisit the educational system is also because it encourages students to work in teams. We've had different strategies for teaching. We have different strategies for teaching. We have, if I could mention a few, we have the demonstration method, we have the teamwork, we have the teamwork is also the peer group. We have the flip trade, and we have different methods. We have we even have the field trip. So most of this educational system is because one thing we need to revisit is because it makes students to work in teams, and when students works in teams, it encourages collaboration. Yeah, it encourages collaboration. Students learn how to collaborate with different agencies, different organizations, different countries, just because they have been taught right from the school settings that's how to work in teams. When students are not taught how to work in teams, there is no peer group work, there is no collaboration among students. Now, revisiting the educational system, we also encourage students to work in teams, and not just we making students to work in teams, we also have to implement curriculum courses, curriculum subjects, and curriculum topics that will help them work in teams. There are different concepts, and for example, if I'm teaching literacy, there are different concepts I could implement or integrate to bring the student to work as a team. Same thing could also apply to numeracy, some things could also apply to science, could apply to STEM, could apply to biology, could apply to other, even the university courses. Yeah, it's good, even to the PhD programs. And there's something. So it helps them to be able to work closely with teams, and to the need of employees working in teams requires students to develop skills in group dynamics and compromise debate, persuasions, organizations, and leadership and management skills. Exactly. So students working in teams will help them be able to work to build their management skills, be able to manage um, different project works. Because when you have a team, you could also delegate a team lead to lead the team. So it could also help in organization leadership. It will help in debate, and it will help in persuasion. Globalization breaks the boundaries of space, and these advanced information communication technologies, a new system of knowledge, education, and learning should apply to a range of synchronous and asynchronous activities that aid teachers and students in breaking boundaries of space and time. For globalization has changed. And in educational technology, like I said, I'm an educational technologist, so I might be making examples of my own field, of my own discipline. So in educational technologies, in educational technology using EdTech, we have the open and distance learning (ODL), which many institutions have implemented. Now, in the ODL, that's where we could be seeing the asynchronous and the synchronous. That's yeah, for examples of these are teachers using emails, teachers using social media platforms, teachers using the Google Meet, the Zoom, the Google Classrooms, and the rest, and teachers using the synchronous. So that's more. So most of these where you can find the asynchronous and the synchronous is in the ODL, the open distance learning. I'm so glad that the ODL has also moved far. You could see this ODL in different institutions, nationally, internationally. We have them here in Nigeria. We have them different countries. I'm aware of the one in India. I'm aware of the one in Finland. I'm aware of the one in Canada. I'm aware of almost their ODL moving in different institutions globally. So the need for us to revisit it. Some of this is to encourage student learning and for us to break boundaries of space. Let's train the student to break a boundary of space. The pandemic made us realize that student needs to um, break the boundary of space in order to move on. Okay. So essence of this it helps in method of still the essence of revisiting this is helps in making sure that our students are welcome. That's just the main essence of we revisiting the global educational system. I want us to have an educational system whereby the teachers don't just come to the student and teach the student. I want us to have a global educational system. So, sorry. I want us to have a global educational system in which the student and the teachers, I mean, rather don't just come to the class to teach the student and just go. I want us to have a global educational system, an educational system in which students will be able to understand and have meaningful learning experience of what the teacher is saying. I want us to have an educational system in which the students will be able to defend what they've been taught, even in the next 10 years. I want us to have an educational system in which students should be able to be expertise in fields and should be able to have even collaborate in other fields. That's an educational system that I want. An educational system that could be strengthened, an educational system that could build the world for a better space, an educational system that would develop the students of today to become adults and critical thinkers, an educational system that would develop change makers around the world. That's the educational system I want us, not an educational system that is teacher come to the classroom, teach the students, and after the teacher teach any question, no, and the teacher and the class dismiss, and you ask the child the next day, what did you have? There is nothing the child can remember. I want us to have an educational system that the teaching strategies and the learning strategies could be implemented. I want us to have an educational system that even teachers need to also have the orientation that the people they're training are more like eggs and they are fragile, in which and a good educational system will help them for a global impact. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, in the face of such tremendous change, our student needs to have different skills. Hence, education will go longer just mean, but we require to focus on the development of soft skills. In the face of such tremendous change, our student needs to have difficult skills. Hence, education will no longer just be about knowing, but will require us to focus on the development of soft skills, communication, creative thinking, and flexibility. That's one thing. The tremendous change here I'm talking about. Let it not just about knowing. Let it just be about. Let it require also have development of skills. Let's also have communication and creative thinking, and flexibility of learning. But education could easily get lost in the quest to train child for jobs of tomorrow. Our role as educators must focus on than just professional development. Educators in the UAE, that is UAE of United Arab Emirates, must create learning environment, provide young individuals. This is why I'm saying it because I had some research about it. And being that this is a global talk, I hope the UAE gets to find something more of this and create a learning environment, provide young minds with comprehensive, well-rounded education, covering culture, language, value development, and creating and retaining connection to our heritage. Um, so that's it's more like an advice, not just for the UAE, but countries could also adapt this advice for their educational system. Next slide, please. So it is easy that to think that education. It is easy to think that we can improve our education than just getting the right curriculum. Yeah, it's very easy for us to. So it's very easy for us to think that we could think of getting the right curriculum by just changing more of the topics there, and the right testing system, and the right management scheme, and somehow this will create great schools. It's not just we taking up a curriculum that we feel that is right. We need to take a curriculum that we feel or that we know that yes, this curriculum is right to change the curriculum is right to implement um, and make our students the great adults we are looking at for tomorrow. Education is not an assembly line, it is a powerful, when I mean assembly line, most of us, most people in the school system, there's the assembly line. It's not just we making an assembly line, it's not just we come in and just talk and go. No, that's not the education we are looking at. It is the most powerful element, and the most powerful element is the teacher. Without the teacher, there is no education. Without the teacher, there is no how we can visit the educational system. Without the teacher, there is no how we can develop students for a global world. So we need to have the powerful element on ground, which are the teachers, and not just having that education is just an assembly line. Teachers also have to have they have an important task to play. Just like I said, they are the shape future of generations. Just like I said earlier, it is the teachers who shape the children. So without the teachers, we can't have a progressive educational system. Without the teachers, we can have a system that will change the world. Without the teachers, we can't even visit the educational system, because if we visit the educational system requires teachers around the world to change everything. So it is therefore that we need to change our educational system for a global change, because without, like I said, without education, there is no bedrock for it. With education, there's no movement, there's no progression for a country. Now, education is what makes us progress. Now, when talking about the education, we don't have to just be so gender biased on our educational system. We have to make education open for all. We have to make education open not just for boys alone, but education open for both the boys and girls. And an education that will make both the boys to feel that yes, they are the same just as well as girls. An education that will make both the boys and girls to become critical thinkers. An education that will change the world. An education that will change the society. An education that will change the country where they come from. And this change begins from you and it begins from I. Thank you. Next slide, please. So it is therefore needed that we change our educational system, because the educational system we need is an educational system that needs to be strengthened, an educational system that needs to flow in the way we need, an educational system that will make sure that students will be able to know that yes, we are the future of tomorrow. An educational system that will make us to have students who will know that they are not coming for the classroom's sake, they are coming for an experience. An educational system that will make the student know not just we coming to the classroom to say to teach, an educational system that will make us to ask the students, even after the experience in the classroom, they should be able to know what they are being taught. Not just an educational system that will teach, and after teaching, we ask any question, and the students say no question, class dismissed, and there is no meaningful learning experience that the students have learned. We need an educational system that can be passed on to the next generation, and the next generation of teachers coming after us should be proud of the current teachers, should be proud of the government, should be proud of the stakeholders who are invested in education, to be proud that yes, there was a great educational system even before them. That was made for us to revisit the educational system. It is therefore that I recommend that there should be proper orientation of teachers and educationists and even stakeholders, in fact, to train and develop teachers, even parents. I'm not also going to exclude the parents. So I recommend that there should be proper orientation of teachers, there should be proper orientation of parents, there will be proper orientation of government for us to um, develop students to become change makers, of a global world. Because when there is no proper orientation, it's really not going to be well. Thank you.
speech you had there. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, very, very rightly said that for
I'm sorry, I
making
can't hear
a
you,
global
please.
change, sorry, for making a
Oh,
global change, we need to
okay.
orient, for making a global change, we really need to orient the teachers, the parents, the government, and then only globalization will lead to change in the global economy, and education will lead to change in globalization. And there are these are the absolutely great ideas, and the audience has also put it here, very rightly said that there is a great vision for educational reforms, great ideas, and it has been very, very enlightening. Now, there are some questions which the audience would like to ask you, sir. Can education be used to change the world? You've already, I think, put it in your presentation there.
How can education be used to change the world? Was that the question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Education can be used to change the world in different ways because um, we can't be changing world if there is no education. Now, when talking about the education, I'm not just talking about the formal education. We could also be the informal education. Now, the formal education has to do with the classroom settings, the school settings. Why the informal education has to do outside the school settings, could be at home and everything. Now, the reason why that's why I said at my recommendation that I'm not excluding the parents from revisiting the educational system because we also need the parents because they will act out in educational system. Joining the formal and the informal educational system, we would need them all to change the world because education is a changing tool. Education is what we need for the world to be a better place. Education is what we need for us to have change makers all over. Without education, there is no way we could have a better world. Education, it might not just necessarily have to be going to school alone, going to the classroom. It could be from the home training, it could be from the culture. Yeah, because once there is no culture, the educational system will have to work better. Money.
Thank you, sir. The
I
next
hope I
question
answered.
here is what are the major factors that affect the education system throughout the world?
Okay, well, the major factors that affect the educational system of the world, it has to be number one. I would say it's the unqualified training of teachers. When we have teachers who are not qualified yet for training of teachers, training of students to become change makers, there's going to be a major breakdown of in the educational system. And another thing is one of the major factors of education is no way adapting to the latest trend. That, like I said, I'm an educational technologist, and education technology has come to stay in the sense that it's not going to replace the classroom, it's not going to replace the teacher. It just helps to assist and facilitate them. So, not we adapting to trends in educational technology, new trends in education, new trends that will help us. Take a look at the COVID-19. If we had not adapted the new trends, perhaps we would have still been back. But now we have different trends that has helped us move on and help students move on. And I think we are back now to the normal place where and we are progressing. So one of the factors I say are unqualified teachers who are not qualified to train students to become change makers of tomorrow, and not we adapting to of the weekend. I could also say that the government also could also play as a factor if they are not ready to support schools, if they're not ready to support the educational system, if they're not ready to help us. And I also I won't say of the agency because the agencies have also been trying well. The agencies such as UNESCO, UNICEF, they've been doing great jobs, I must say. So well done. They've actually been helping sure that education are moving on and on. So those are just the factors I could say for now that are implemented in the educational system.
Thank you. Uh, how will the education system change in future? What do you think?
Well, the educational system in the future, I believe because I know for sure that there's going to be a great change, simply because this was not how the educational system was um, back then. That's why I implore countries who haven't changed their curriculum, countries who need to revisit their system to check up on their system, because I'm sure that if we have a talk to different countries, and countries who still dwell on the old curriculum. So for us to move and have a bright future in the educational system, we need to have a good educational system. We need to revisit. We already have an educational system because there is an educational system. But we need to revisit it. They have been revisiting, and I think some countries have visited that they changed their system of education to some 6334, some 8334, and thereabout. But we need to revisit it, not just we changing it for just a change's sake, but we revisiting it that we are strengthening our educational system and making sure that the future is bright for the students, for the children that we have currently on ground.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been absolutely brilliant listening to your views, and we wish you all the very best so that you can
Thank you very
achieve
much.
of whatever you are aiming for. And let's all
Thank you very
work
much.
together to make world a better place and let education lead to globalization and let everybody be educated. Thank you so much for it was such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you,
Thank
audience. This is
you.
Anupama Mahajan, your host for the evening, signing off. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, sir.